giving you the information you need. This is Inside the News. Here's Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Welcome back to Inside the News. This is our international segment. We've got Frank Vernuccio with USAGovPolicy.com with the American Analysis of News and Media. Ben Brunson, the author of The False Theft Enigma and Esther Sling. You can find him at benbrunson.com and amazon.com. Welcome back, gentlemen. Let's get right started here. Ben, we've got a new axis of evil, but it's not called axis of evil, but it's a new axis of something. We've got China, Russia, and India. Go.
Well, the fact that the Chinese and the Russians are working together on some level is not a new story. Frankly, I think that Chairman Xi does not view Russia as a peer state. He views it, I think, very similarly to the way he views North Korea, in that it's a satellite state that can be a useful ally, a useful idiot, depending on your point of view, in challenging the West and tweaking the United States where it makes sense and helps the Chinese. Frankly, I think she views that Russia is just a joke at this point militarily, other than its nuclear power, which is quite significant. Very concerning would be any type of overture between China and India. They are historically enemies. They fight border clashes almost daily along the shared border between China and India, especially in the Kashmiri region, where they have had some pretty nasty border clashes, and a lot of men have been injured in those, and some have been killed. So they're kind of natural enemies to that extent, much like Vietnam and China are. But you have this phenomenon where the Indians are making a lot of money by buying oil from Russia at a discount to the global market price, which is around $65 a barrel right now. But the Indians are buying it a lot cheaper than that in order to fund. Putin has to sell it to fund his war machine. And of course, Donald Trump is pushing back, and that's created a friction point between the U.S. and India. Look, I would love to see Donald Trump and Modi have a summit sooner rather than later and get our relationship back on track where it needs to be. I'm hoping that this is just a momentary blip. I think India is interested in, it needs a lot of energy, a lot of oil. It has the world's biggest population right now and a growing economy. The U.S. can supply that. We're the biggest producer of oil in the world, the biggest producer of natural gas. So under Donald Trump, we can hopefully supply a lot of that to the global market and to the Indians. So we're going to have to see what happens, but let's hope that this is merely a blip. Unfortunately, Trump's going to be forced to play more hardball with India because that's the only hope he has of stopping the Ukraine war.
All right, Frank.
It's a lot more than just the bucks. As I've said in the program before, there is a profound nostalgia, a profound affection on the part of the Indian military to the Russian, formerly Soviet military. Many were trained in Russia. Much of their equipment has come from Russia. There are long ties between the Indian military and Russia and formerly the Soviet Union. Until that changes, India is still going to continue to drift into Russia, in and out of Russia's orbit. There is a dichotomy between the interests of the Indian civilians and the Indian military between the United States and Russia. India's future economically should be with the United States, but the Indian military will continue to look to Russia for its military weaponry, its supplies, its training, and frankly, its affection.
Okay, Ben, we've got a country south of us here. It's called Venezuela. What a mess that is. They got Maduro, and he's, we've said that he's head of the cartels down there, and our situation with them is not very good, is it?
No, look, the Venezuelan economy basically doesn't exist anymore. They no longer ship much oil or produce much oil, even though they have massive reserves. But their whole infrastructure has collapsed due to lack of any investment whatsoever for decades now. They have no more expertise left in the country since all the Western oil companies have long fled. So the only thing they have is what most socialist countries in Latin America revert to, which is drug dealing. And they have become a massive transshipment point for drugs produced elsewhere, like in Colombia and other countries, on their way north. And the U.S. is reacting. A lot of the talk about the U.S. taking military action against drug cartel is really not geared towards Mexico. It's geared towards Venezuela. We have a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head, the Venezuelan dictator. That's to encourage, of course, a coup within the country. And we are now building up our naval presence off the Venezuelan coast. I think we will soon announce essentially a blockade of anything coming out of Venezuela headed north, either by sea or by air. And that's the reason our naval presence is growing so large off their coast. So this is to essentially ultimately bring down the socialist regime, which has destroyed the Venezuelan economy completely and utterly. It went from being one of the wealthiest country in Latin America to, I believe, now the poorest, and continuing south under this socialist insanity that grips Venezuela.
You know, Frank, it is such a beautiful city and country down there. When you look at it like 30, 40 years ago, it was absolutely gorgeous. It's not even a mere image of what it used to be.
No, I had the opportunity in the late 1980s, early 1990s to meet some of the finance people at the top of the Venezuelan government. And they would talk about the coming destruction of their country. The fact is, Venezuela sits upon an ocean of oil. It should be one of the most enjoyable places, one of the most prosperous places on earth. But socialist economics and corruption have destroyed the country. You'd think it would be a lesson for American socialists to see that a country sitting upon an ocean of oil can somehow be bankrupt. But nevertheless, they don't seem to learn at all. But there is a problem more than just drugs, a problem more than just socialism that is a danger from Venezuela. And that is, Venezuela is a toehold in the Western Hemisphere for China, Russia, and Iran. It's a military danger, a military threat to the United States, one that eventually has to be encountered sooner or later.
All right, we got to take a break and a timeout. We're going to be back on the other side because it looks like the government of Mexico and the cartels, they might be joining forces to actually be one in the same. Well, we're going to maybe find that out. Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.